Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode number 260 of the Chris Rose Rotation, a production of John Boy Media. And today we are going to welcome in a guy who's enjoying his offseason, but I know he's keeping an eye on the baseball season because I've been stalking him on his social media. From your Chicago Cubs, Jameson Taillon. So I guess I'm not technically stalking you on social media, but following you. That's okay, right?
Yeah, that's good. And it's always a fine line of I do watch the games, but I'm also aware that Cubs fans are upset that we're not in it. So I don't want to rub it in anyone's face that, I'm at home on the couch watching, but the playoffs have been phenomenal and I've been pretty locked in.
But Cubs fans shouldn't be pissed at that. I mean, they can be upset that y'all came up a little short. That's fine. But you're a baseball fan. Now, I know some guys who are like, I'll see you next February. I'm out. I'm not
Yeah.
watching anything, even if my buddies are playing. But you seem to be really locked in.
Yeah, so I feel like when I was in the minor leagues especially, I would hear guys who would like count down the days to the end of the season, or like they would go home and be like, in the off season I don't even think about baseball. I just do my workouts, but I don't even like watch it, think about it. And I'm like, yeah, me too. But really deep down, I'm like a total baseball nerd. I'm a big baseball fan. I can't get enough of it. So I've been texting my dad about all the games and stuff and what matchups are coming up and all that.
So you and I were chatting a little bit before we started recording here. Let everybody know how you were consuming last night's game.
Yeah. So I was actually on a date with my wife, and she knows the Coles very well too. Gerrit was on the mound, so I pulled it up on my phone and was watching at dinner. I feel like that's probably not the right thing to do in most circumstances, but Yankees, I know a lot of those guys, and of course, anytime Gerrit Cole's on the mound, it's must watch.
Okay. So she was okay with it. Did she
Oh
eye
yeah,
roll you or no?
no. We were both rooting for old Gerrit out there, so we were both locked in.
Okay. You guys came up in the Pirates organization together. When did you, do you remember the first time you met him?
I don't remember necessarily the very first time, but I know it was Instructional League of 2011. It might have been it might have been like his 21st birthday,
Hmm.
and we went to Outback Steakhouse together.
Woo!
Yeah, big time in Bradenton, Florida. Yeah, and then from there we just hit it off. All things pitching, cooking, wine, TV shows. We ended up living together for some spring trainings, and lucky enough to play together in the big leagues in Pittsburgh, and then reunite in New York, and then just stay in touch ever since.
All right. So what type of roommate is he?
Solid. He's what you'd expect. He's dialed. He can cook a great meal. He can pair it with wine. Got great taste in music. Plays some guitar. Very clean. Yeah, he's very solid.
Now, on the other side of things, I imagine you probably ran into a roommate or two in the minor leagues where you're like, dude, you are a fucking slob. Clean it up.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. It's funny. I was drafted in the first round, but coming up through the minor leagues, I didn't understand like money and how that all works. So I always lived with like four other dudes in the minor leagues, and I'd buy my bed from a local Goodwill and stuff like that. Like I just didn't
Nice.
understand that. I didn't understand like recovery and prioritizing sleep and like that sort of thing. So I was sleeping, on a Goodwill bed and in a closet type extra room, just not fully understanding. So yeah, I was always in like stocked houses of dudes. People are going up and down, so you're always getting new roommates. So yeah, different now, but back then I just honestly had no clue. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a good experience.
Dude, you were the number 2 overall pick of the draft. You could have spent a little of that change on something nice.
Yeah, well, no, we were living in like college dorms in the summer, like in Altoona. We were at Penn State Altoona dorms, and just you know what though, those are like some of my best memories in baseball. So
What was the best town you lived in, minor league wise, where you had the most
you know
fun?
what? I think most Pirates guys would say this. I loved Indianapolis. Like really loved playing there. I think Double A Altoona was super nice, but you get to Triple A and the Pirates org, and you get to Indy, which is like, I mean, they have like the Pacers and the Colts. Like you get to, a big league city with good food, and they're filling out 10 to 15,000 people a night, and it actually felt like the big leagues for the first time. I really liked Indy.
So our youngest son, is a freshman at Butler,
Oh,
and
cool.
we drove past the AAA stadium, and he's like, Dad, he took a tour of it earlier. He said the place is incredible. And by the way, he sent off a photo of our buddy Brault, like somewhere in there. Yeah, I bet you there's a picture of you too, but he knows that Brault and I are pretty close. So, uh,
So fun fact, my wife's parents lived in Indianapolis for a while, and they saw like my big poster I had on the waterway there, and I actually think they paid someone to take that, and I think they have it at their farm. So yeah, they have like a 6 foot picture of me that they took off the waterway there.
dude, that's all. You have to go sign that bad boy.
I know. I actually need to figure out where they have it. I think it's at their farm.
Wouldn't you want it though?
No, I don't need to look at myself. I'm good.
What's the coolest thing you've got memorabilia wise?
You know what? I was just talking about this with someone on the Cubs about how I need to get more proactive about getting other dudes to sign things.
Mm-hmm.
There was a year I was like super good about it. I planned out my schedule. So I got like a Miguel Cabrera signed jersey. Paul Goldschmidt, we went to the same high school.
Mm-hmm.
So he personalized a really cool jersey. I got Buster Posey, Kershaw, and then actually we just played the Yankees at Wrigley, and I had Judge and Gerrit sign for me, and they both wrote like super cool messages for me on there.
Hmm.
So those are all pretty cool. But this year I need to get I really want to get a Bobby Witt. I need to get an Ohtani. I need to come up with my list.
Yeah, get that Ohtani guy. I hear he's
Yeah,
making strides.
yeah, he's not bad.
It, it's ridiculous what he does. I ask everybody that comes on this show, are you thankful you're playing in the same era as him?
I've given up a couple homers to him, so I don't know if I would say I'm like thankful or grateful, but um, to me, like playing in the big leagues, I just don't understand, especially when he's pitching. Like, I just don't really understand how it even works. Like, I'm I'm a starting pitcher. I only pitch every fifth day, and like my schedule is pretty full. I have like I throw my plyo balls. I do something in the weight room every single day. I have my arm care routine, my treatment routine, my scouting routine. I got to take my notes, and like I can't imagine doing all of that and going out and like DHing and hitting 50 homers and stealing 50 bags. Like I just don't really like does he go to hitters meetings? Does he I don't understand when he's doing both how it even operates. Like I just don't get it.
By the way, this is supposed to be his rehab year.
Yeah. Yeah, and same thing. Like I've done Tommy John and like it occupied like all of my life. Like everything I did in my especially my second one, it was all about my recovery. Like I was doing everything in order to get back, and I'm sure he's doing the same, and he's hitting. It's just like to me, it's incredible, but for me, like when I really break it down and think deeper, like I literally have a hard time understanding how he does it.
All right, more of the conversations coming your way, but first I want to tell you about this game-changing product that actually we use in the Rose household before we go out for a night of drinks. It's called Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Now let's face it, after an evening out, Roses, we don't bounce back the next day kind of like we used to. So usually we make a choice. We either have a great night out or a great next day. That is until we found Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-alcohol, it's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists. It tackles rough mornings, a morning after drinking. So here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol actually gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's that byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your very rough next day. And just pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So remember, make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly. You're going to feel your best the next day. Every time that we have pre-alcohol before drinks, we notice a difference the very next day, even if the night out is a little rough. You know what I mean. So head on over to zbiotics.com/rotation. You're going to get 15% off your first order. Use rotation at checkout. Pre-alcohol is back with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they're going to refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head on over to zbiotics.com/rotation. Use that code rotation at checkout, 15% off. Want to thank ZBiotics for sponsoring this episode and our good times as well. Let's get back to your high school days. Since Wikipedia is the number one research tool, every kid, whenever you're writing a term paper, go right to Wikipedia. Everything's accurate. So I have to confirm this. Did you really have a 19 strikeout no-hitter in high school?
I did. I did. Yeah, so I think I walked the leadoff hitter of the game, and then I don't think anyone hit it out of the infield, and I struck out 19 of the 21, and the other two outs were like maybe like a ground ball to short and a ground ball to second. It's funny though, dude, because like where I grew up playing baseball is obviously a hotbed just north of Houston. And like I had good high school numbers, but I got hit. Like I threw upper 90s. I threw a 84 mile an hour curveball back then, which I wish I still had, but like I gave up homers and I gave up hits and like I didn't have one of those. I had a good senior year and everything, but I didn't have one of those crazy stat sheets that you see for some guys from like smaller towns in the middle of nowhere where it's like they threw 7 no-hitters in a row. Like I got hit, I got barreled. But yeah, I remember that game pretty well.
So, but think of it this way: you made some kid's dream. There's some guy right now in his early 30s who's like, "Yeah, I clicked that guy in the Cubs." So that's
Yeah,
nice for them.
I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen some people talking like, "Oh yeah, he grew up in my area. I was terrified to stand in the box. I struck out." And then I've seen others where it's like, "He grew up in my area and we rocked him one game or something." You know, it's like I don't doubt you did. Like I did get hit.
I rocked might be a little extreme.
There was maybe one game I got rocked in high school, but yeah, rocked might be extreme.
Well, when were you? When did you start being great? Because I asked some guys and they're like, "It took me a while," or some guys are like, "Yeah, 8 years old, I was a stud."
No, I was never that kid. I was always on really good teams, but I was never the best player on any of my teams. Like I was on really good travel ball teams, but I feel like my like rise through baseball was just very steady and it kind of always has been. Like I never took this one huge leap or I never had one moment where I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to the big leagues." Like even when I got to the big leagues, and I was the second overall pick. I was like, "How the hell am I here?" Like everyone's so good. It's still incredible to me that I made it, but um, first time I ever threw 90 was our first scrimmage my sophomore year, and that's when I started thinking like maybe I could go to college, like a really like I could pick wherever I want to go to school. And then my junior year, I remember I had a game, might have been like our first tournament of the year. I was like 92, 94, and that's when it was like, oh, maybe I'll get offered enough out of the draft to sign. And then I kind of just steady kept going, and it was like, oh, now I'm being talked about in the first round and that sort of thing. But yeah, I was never like some. I'd imagine everyone I played with growing up would say the same thing. Like I was good growing up, but I was never like a superstar on my team type kid.
You ended up being the number 2 overall pick in the 2010 draft. Just remind everybody who sandwiched your selection.
Yeah, I was drafted after Harper and before Manny Machado. And I actually got to play on Team USA with them when we were 18. So I've been following their careers and rooting for them this whole time. Obviously, it's tough to when you're younger. It's tough to be drafted there when they were in the big leagues and winning MVPs and stuff. But as I've matured and gotten older and carved out a career for myself, like it's pretty cool to be able to say that I was drafted around them.
What was it like being on that Team USA with that? Because that was a good squad, right?
Dude, it was crazy. Kevin Gossman, Robbie Ray, Nick Castellanos, um, Tony Walters. It was ridiculous. Like I've looked at the roster and I'm thinking like this team wins games in the big leagues, right? Like a lot of games, right? Like Bryce Harper was my catcher. How about that?
Yeah. Well, that's what he started as. And then they were like, no. Scott Boras like,
Yeah.
get your ass to the outfield. We're going to have you
Yep.
stand for a living. How was he as a catcher?
Super solid. Super solid, actually. I just remember, so I threw to him against Cuba, and I think Cuba had Jorge Soler, which is a fun fact. But um, he was just super into it. Like, I haven't played with Harper obviously since, but I just remember him being a baseball nut. Like, I remember him as a catcher being super locked in, like in the dugout in between innings, talking pitches and sequencing and being super into it.
Did he have a full beard back then?
I don't remember. He was definitely the best player on the field, though, every time.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard guys like, God, I forgot who I talked to back. Well, actually, it might have been Austin Hedges, who grew up playing with Harper, I think, on some travel ball team. Like Michael Lorenzen might have been on it. They said he came in as like a 13-year-old or something from Las Vegas and was hitting the ball 440 feet or whatever. So the stuff
Yeah.
you must have seen a few years later was incredible.
Yeah, I just think it's so cool for him to like have all those articles written about him at a young age and then just go out and carve his own career and become his own person and his own player and feels like he's found such a home in Philly. Like I think that's really cool. That's a lot of pressure to put on a young kid. I was drafted high, but I never had any of that. I had none of that pressure. Like I can't imagine what that was like at a young age. And then for him to just kind of figure it all out and become the best version of himself is pretty cool.
So you mentioned Harper, you mentioned Machado. They get up pretty quickly. I mean, like teenage. It took you obviously a little while longer, injuries, etc. Things set you back. Was there ever a time you questioned whether or not you would even make it?
I don't think I ever questioned whether I would make it. Um, it's interesting. Like, yeah, so I was in AAA at age 21 and I was on the fast track. I was a big prospect. I got hurt, and then I was coming back from TJ, and I got sports hernia surgery. And I remember thinking then, I kind of just had to have a conversation with myself of like, why am I doing this? Like, it's not like I picked going into the draft. I just threw hard as a high school kid and got picked where I got picked. It's like, so I had to have that conversation with myself of like, what is my why? Why am I rehabbing this? Why am I working hard? Like, what do I want out of my career? Who do I want to be? I had to have that talk with myself because until then everything had been like pretty easy, and it's not like I ever like declared for the draft. I kind of got thrown into it, thrown into this situation because I was good and I worked hard at a young age and all that. But I did have to have that like internal talk of like, if we want to make it to the big leagues, we being me talking to myself, it's like we're gonna have to figure out a real why. Because I remember being in Bradenton, Florida, and if you've ever been to Pirate City, like I remember just dragging sleds around all four fields with Clay Holmes and just thinking like, I'll never forget us talking. We're like, do you think anyone's even thinking about us right now? Like, do you think the Pirates even remember that we're in their system? Like, it's August, it's 100 degrees, we're dragging sleds. We felt so far away from everything and everyone. And yeah, I honestly, I think being hurt helped me make it and helped me carve out a career for myself.
That's some deep stuff for 21 or
Yeah.
22.
Yeah, but I had never had that talk with myself. Like I had never figured out why I was doing it and why I wanted to, put in the work and the discipline and all that. So I think it took some setbacks to like just, I don't know, motivate myself and learn a lot about myself.
Who told you were going to the show?
My AAA manager, Dean Trainer. I think I was in Columbus, and I got a call from a number I didn't have, and my roommate at the time was just like, "Dude, you should probably take that. Like, you never know. When you're in AAA, you're paying attention to the big league team. Injuries. I think we had a double header coming up or something, so we all knew like maybe they were going to need somebody. Um, so yeah, I honestly don't have like a great story. I think the great story is that I was going to the show, but it wasn't like a prank was played on me, and there were no recordings of it and stuff. But I'll still never forget it.
Who'd you call? First call was who?
Mom and dad.
Did they
Mom and dad.
cry?
Yeah. I don't remember. I don't think they cried. They were obviously very excited and proud, but it was late at night too, so they were probably scared when I called them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't remember if there were tears or not.
I would have cried. I cried when I would watch my son throw high school ball. So I could only imagine what the heck it's like. Yo, pops, meet me in Milwaukee.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it's gotten easier over the years. I know my dad used to get real nervous when I would pitch, talk to the TV and stuff. I'm sure. I hope it's gotten easier for him to watch. I hope I don't give him, too much trouble when he's sitting there watching. But yeah, and I mean, like it takes a whole village to get to the big leagues, and it takes a whole village to even get drafted. There's a lot of people that impact you and stuff. So, um, yeah, I was lucky to just have a lot of great people in my life, and a lot of people that were able to make it to my debut and follow along.
Well, Lucas Giolito is a regular on this show. He said his dad cannot sit down, so he rarely goes to his starts in person. And if he does, he's walking around the stadium the entire time. And when he threw his no hitter, he didn't even watch. He was so nervous. He
Wow.
went for a walk. He could not watch.
Yeah, I think my dad can watch. I do think he gets a little antsy. Like he wants to get there early. He wants to, have a certain. He likes his aisle seat.
Mm-hmm.
He really locks in and pays attention. He doesn't like people distracting him and that sort of thing. But I think he can watch. I'll never forget when I was in high school. My dad would wear this yellow like windbreaker jacket, and he would sit right behind the plate, and he stuck out like a sore thumb. And I remember having to tell him in high school, like, "Hey, dude, you got to get out of my way. You got to go. Like, pick a side, go down the line. You can't sit right behind home plate. Like I'm looking at you after every pitch because you're wearing bright yellow. I think we called it like his bumblebee jacket or something. We're like, dude, you got to move.
Was he vocal?
No, no, I don't remember him being super vocal. Not in high school. He just kind of sat there and locked in.
All right, for a lot of us out here that like collecting cards, and my buddy Trevor Plouffe is at the top of the list, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on, say, an Ellie De La Cruz or a Luka Doncic or Patrick Mahomes rookie card, that just frankly isn't in the cards. You might love collecting, but that is some serious dough to drop. But thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of the retail price. Every card that I just talked about was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club, it's the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. In fact, you know what? We pulled an autographed Cade Horton from the pack that they sent us. Pretty good deal. The Arena Club grading process, by the way, it is accurate, it is fast, it is transparent with a full grade rationale provided and an explanation of how your card was scored. Because sometimes you get the scoring update and you're like, what? This doesn't make any sense. It will, thanks to Arena Club. Whether you're buying, you're selling, you're trading, you're displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you simply have to check out. And right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/rose. That is arenaclub.com/rose. 10% off your first purchase. Enjoy. Yeah, our youngest son was a decent pitcher in high school, and I always loved watching him pitch. And I would just encourage him when he would walk out there, be like, let's go get him. And then I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah,
Just wanted him
solid.
to have that moment. Now, there's a good friend of mine. I actually used to coach his son growing up, and they went to school together for a long time. He used to bark at the umpires.
Oof.
And I was like, Michael, you are not helping him right now. I was like, he goes, but he's got to call it for both teams. I said, Michael, that's fine. Say it shit to me. Don't say it to the
Yeah.
guy back there because you know what? He's a high school umpire. If he was any better, he'd be in the bigs.
Yeah.
Even those guys stink. So just stop.
It's funny, like I mean, you see a lot of it again growing up in that Texas area where it's taken really seriously. You hear a lot about Texas high school football, but Texas high school baseball is pretty serious too. And you would see it all. Yeah, you'd see parents yelling at umpires, yelling at their kids. Like you would see it all growing up. I always say like you could make a show, like a reality show on baseball dads in the Texas area. Like it would have hit ratings.
Hey, don't leave out the moms.
And the moms, yeah. The moms too.
Who is the best player you played against in high school?
Keeping it just to the Houston area, like not the travel ball tournament stuff. Other guys, you know who, and he was a pitcher, and I didn't hit in high school. Do you remember the name Matthew Perk? He went to TCU. He was a first rounder, I think, twice out of high school and then out of TCU. But he was a lefty out of high school, throwing like low to mid 90s with like a low slot. I remember he was really, really incredible. Um, I grew up near like Randall Gritchick and I played against Shelby Miller a little bit. All just phenoms. Like those were the kids who were the best on their team all the time.
Dude, it's amazing. You mentioned this kid Perk, twice a first round pick, and he doesn't sniff it, right?
Yeah, he may have bounced around on some 40-man rosters and stuff. I don't remember exactly what happened to him, but he was freaking nasty.
But that just goes to show you how tough this sport is. You can be
Yeah.
that good at that age, and baseball fan never heard of him, don't know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's about outlasting people and having the ability to outlast people, health, right place, right time, getting an opportunity. Like, there's so many dudes I played with in the minor leagues who were just like so blocked coming up and never had a shot, or got hurt and then fell down the depth chart. You're old for your level or whatever. I played with so many freaking good players in the minor leagues that I'm like, I kind of feel like I'm still I'm like a flag bearer for those guys who I played with, who I'm like, you guys were all deserving of a shot. It just doesn't always work out like that.
So you were on the same team with my boys Brault and Glasnow, weren't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, those are my boys. Love those guys.
Those are some personalities, those two.
Dude, so and you throw in like Chad Cool, Trevor Williams, We had Adam Frazier, Josh Bell. Like we all came up together, played in AAA together, debuted around the same time. I've obviously been lucky enough to play with the Yankees and Cubs, and like I've had a lot of great teammates. But that group of Pirates guys will always say like it'll just like we'll never experience anything like that again, where we're all the same age, all going through the same stuff, same stage of life. Like it really was special. Like we all were true like best friends. It was awesome. We'd all, celebrate together. We'd grind together. We'd go out after bad outings, after good outings. Like we were all there for each other. We'd truly watch each other's bullpens and stuff. Like you just can't recreate that or fake that.
I love that. How often did Brault take you to a karaoke bar?
Dude, I've got a good Brault story.
Mm.
So we were in Chicago together. He may have told this, but it was our rookie years, 16, and we got optioned for like a day before rosters expanded in September. So we were in Chicago. We couldn't go to the game, like we couldn't be there. Um, so we went to dinner together and then went to a karaoke spot, and it was a live band karaoke. And Brault gets on stage. This place is packed. Brault gets on stage, and I had never like really. I We joked around. I had listened to like his band from high school. I knew he could sing. He gets up there and just starts jamming with this band. And I swear to God, he was up there for 45 minutes. Like he played a whole set list, and the whole place was loving it. The band was amazed at how good he was. I was just front row sitting there, like I was a groupie, dude. I was just sitting there, like this is incredible. And they were just, talking music. They were like, "Hey, if we play this, you can sing whatever you want." And they were just going back and forth. It was really cool.
I love it. Doesn't surprise me. I mean, the first time I remember seeing him, I mean, I had heard his name, but I wasn't that locked in on a left-hander for the Pirates at that point of his career, was when he sang the national anthem in
Yeah,
full uni.
I think I pitched. I think I started that night actually. And again, like how locker rooms work and stuff. Like you want to give some shit to your boy. Like he puts himself out there and sings the anthem. You kind of want to talk some smack to him, but it was so good that like you can't talk smack. Like you have to just respect it and be like, dude, that's. I remember being in the bullpen though. Like, holy crap, he's crushing it. Um, yeah, you want to give him smack. Like I remember, I think it was like one of our first big league camps together. I think it was Jared Hughes, like really good ground ball reliever for the Pirates. Like put on his music throughout, our spring training complex. And same thing, everyone like wants to give the young guy smack, and everyone's just like complimenting him on how good he was.
Wasn't Jared Hughes the guy that sprinted in from the bullpen?
Yep, yep, absolute legend. Pirates had some characters back then. We had some awesome dudes, awesome personalities.
Well, hold on. That was a shtick, right?
That, yeah, I think it was. He's like the nicest human ever. So I think that was him kind of like turning it on. Like I need some urgency here. Like he was like the jam guy coming in with runners on base all the time, so he had to psych himself into it a little bit. I think. Um, so yeah, that was his like cue to turn it on. I'm pretty sure.
Well, you didn't play with Grilly there, did you? Or did you miss you?
Never played with him in the big leagues. Did spring trainings with him though.
Got
That
it.
dude's also a character.
Oh, he is. Hey, go check out. There's got to be a video of it. Intentional talk. We were out in Anaheim doing a show, and he shows up in just like a bathrobe, and he takes it off on TV, live TV, and all he is wearing is a jock.
That sounds about right. I remember. So again, my first big league camp, I remember I did stretch with like the A group, the big boys, and I'm like nervous. I'm silent. I'm trying to like do everything the right way. And this was like the WBC year, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing Grilly talk about how Team Italy was going to be, he's like, we might not win a game, but we're going to have the best charcuterie boards, the best wine. Like, I remember thinking, like, these big leaguers are different. And dude, I was dying laughing. I was trying to be so like straight edged. And he's just like, we're gonna have grandmas in there, freaking Nana's cooking, and I'm just like trying not to laugh. I was so nervous to be there around these guys. Yeah, he was another character. Baseball's got a lot of beauties in general, just a lot of great dudes.
Hey, let's talk about your current club. And maybe my favorite player in the show this year is Shota.
Ooh. Oh yeah,
I mean, he is legit like energy on top of being a really good pitcher.
yep,
I love this. Like when I'm seeing
yep.
video of him screaming at the top of his lungs,
Dude, he
yeah.
loves it. Yeah, he's awesome. So I think it's super cool that I try to put myself in his shoes. and think about like going to Japan and you don't speak the language and there is a big cultural difference. Like the way he handled it, it's gonna sound cheesy, but like he handled it with such grace and class. Like, I mean, just immersing himself in the city of Chicago, that's a big deal. I think that helped his transition, just like totally accepting that this is all new to me, but I'm here. I love Chicago. I want to be here. Embrace the fan base, embrace the team. He wanted to try his best to learn English. He wanted to not always like need his interpreter. Um, I just thought that was super cool. He went to like the pitcher's dinner with us in spring. He's a huge pitching nerd. Like the way he's always doing dry throws and feels and asking you questions about your delivery and what they teach in America, even as a kid versus what they teach there. Like, I loved playing with him. He's a super interesting cat, um, just a big personality. And also, like, the dude's been around. He's 30 years old. He's had a good career in Japan. So, like, he knows what he's doing. And he was super dialed into his routine, too. So, he's this fun, lighthearted guy, but also, like, he's here to kick some ass. And he would go out there on a start day and be dialed.
But there is always, I think there's a little bit of reluctance from whether it's the national media or I imagine even guys in the clubhouse. You guys don't know about Shota Imanaga. Like maybe you had heard of him. Maybe you'd seen some clips of him on social media, but you don't know what the dude's going to bring when the bright
Yep.
lights are on the biggest stage in this sport. Were you a little bit surprised about how good he was?
Um, I mean, no and yes. Like, I watched his bullpens and stuff in spring training, and I would say like it didn't surprise me that he had success here. Like, it's an outlier fastball, low slot, high vert, really good splitter that tunnels right off of that. He's got a ton of pitchability, good command. So like, I'm not shocked, but like to the level of success he had. And the cool thing too is like it's not like we were protecting him. Like he was out there pitching big games and big environments. Like there were big spots where like if he were younger maybe where you protect a guy, get him out of the game, get a reliever in there, like they let him work through some stuff. And I just remember like a big start in Boston, in New York, just like facing big lineups, big teams, big markets, bright lights. And like you're saying, like he's getting a strikeout in the seventh inning and he's screaming at the top of his lungs and pounding his glove. And I remember thinking, like, all right, this was early in the year, just thinking this dude's different. Like he wants to be out there. He doesn't want to be protected. He doesn't want kitty gloves on him. Like he wants to get those outs, which is sick.
Didn't he get pulled from a no hitter after 7 or something like that?
Yeah, that was towards the end of the
Yeah.
year against the Pirates. Yeah, he was at seven. I forget his pitch count, but it was up there. And I forget the score, but I think we were winning by a good bit too.
Okay. But walk me through this. There is no magic number where your arm is going to fall off of your body. We just don't know it.
Yeah,
We all think we
yeah,
do. We all think we do in this sport.
yeah.
If you threw 140 pitches in a game, would that set you back for weeks?
I honestly I don't know the answer. It is interesting because like there's days I had a start in Colorado this year. I went 6 innings, scoreless, went out for the seventh and gave up 2 runs. Or maybe I gave up a homer and a double or something like that. And I got pulled. I think it was at 80 pitches. And I remember walking into the dugout and telling Counts, like, that was the right call. Like, I was getting tired. It happened fast, course field, the altitude. But then there's other days where it could be a day where you've really got it and you're at 104 pitches or something and they pull you and you're like, dude, I could have pitched all day. So it's weird like that, the way your body works and recovers throughout a long season. Like there's days where I think I could throw 140 pitches and there's other days where it's like, you're at 80 and you're like, hey, dude, like if we want to do what's best for the team, it's probably best to get me out of here today because I can't feel my legs or my arms dragging or whatever. So it's weird like that. I don't think there's a magic number. That's where like trust in the players and the coaches and like that communication's so big. And as I've gotten older, I feel like I personally have gotten better at that. Like not being afraid to say like, I know the bullpen's thin today. You can push me today. Like I want to be out there as long as you let me go. And there's other days where it's like, I don't feel my best. I'm just going to be honest about it. So yeah, there's no magic number.
Um, you have to let us know how the players are feeling right now. It's the middle of October. So you have starters, some guys who have made 34, 35 starts this year. There are bullpen guys who have pitched in 75 games. I know people are like, well, you just set that all aside and it's adrenaline and stuff, but is everybody dragging ass at this point?
I think it's a mix. There's definitely guys playing through some stuff, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like you're playing through an extra month of injury or whatever. But it's interesting, like playing in New York, it was interesting being there because it felt like there is this expectation to play in October. So, and I don't want to speak for all those guys, but it felt like a lot of their routines and what they do is to play through October. Like they're not trying to, they know it's a long race and it's a marathon, and the way guys prepare and the way just mentally and physically they prepare, it's like they know they're playing an extra month and that's their expectation. So a guy like Gerrit Cole's a good example. Like he knows how to like throttle his throwing and his bullpens and how to give himself, some extra rest by maybe not lifting as hard at the end of September or whatever it is, because he knows he's going to be a horse in October. Um, but I mean, and I only played in the playoffs that year 22. I only pitched in the playoffs, but I do feel like you also get another breath. Like you get another jolt of energy when the air gets a little colder, the fans get a little louder. Like I feel like you get a little bit extra.
I want to ask you a little bit about where we are in the game, particularly when we get to the playoffs. We have seen Detroit, and we're taping this on a Friday, so it's the off day between games 4 and 5, between the Tigers and the Guardians. It's Scooble, and then it's bullpen. And I wonder, listen, I'm going to watch every game. You're a baseball junkie, you live it. But I'm going to use my brothers as an example. They're plugged into the Guardians season, but they are watching everything.
Yep.
The other day, when all 8 teams were pitching, here's the number of pitchers each team used: 6, 7, 5, 4, 4, 7, 8, 7. So half of the teams use 7 pitchers to get through 9 innings. Is that what's best for this sport moving forward?
I don't know. That's a tricky one because obviously I like to tune in and watch a Gerrit Cole in a big game or a Scooble in a big game. But there is something fun to me too about matchups, and like if you're a fan of one of those teams, you'd be pissed off if the manager's not putting, the best matchup in that situation. It's interesting because I think in the regular season, I still think it's really important to have that starting pitcher matchup. Like I remember being a kid looking at the newspaper. I was an Astros fan and being like, "Oh hell yeah, Roy Oswalt's on the mound today." Like I'm gonna tune in. Like that was an exciting day for me as a kid. So I still think it's important. But in the playoffs, like the way the off days work and everything, like I mean, I totally get what these teams are doing. Um, I would also imagine a lot of these managers would say like, if I had the opportunity to run out a Gerrit Cole for 7 innings, I would. But sometimes you just don't have that guy available on your team, and you got to just match guys up like the Tigers are doing right now. That pitching chaos idea, like there's something to it. So yeah, I don't know. I still love a good starting pitcher matchup, but obviously the leashes are a little shorter in October.
Well, you made a start against Houston in the 2022 ALCS, and you pitched exceptionally well. You gave up, I think, 1 run in 4 1/3. Does that sound right? Something like that?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah, the old hometown team.
Yeah, by the way, was that like the biggest high of your career?
It was up there, yeah. Yeah, that was pretty big. I remember I don't even know if I got a strikeout that game. Maybe one, but I remember the defense played incredibly well. And my goal in big games, like I literally tell myself before like a game like that, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go out there and fill up the zone. I'm gonna not shy away. Like I told myself that going into Coors Field this year too. Like it's a hitting environment or it's the playoffs, it's a big situation. It's like, you know what? Screw that. I'm not gonna shy away from throwing strikes. I'm gonna fill it up, sequence, and like let them hit it and let the defense work. Which I feel like sometimes when you watch the playoffs, a lot of guys are like a little timid or nibbling, and that's why so many pitchers are used.
Did you get nervous?
I get nervous every game.
You
I get
do.
nervous in April throwing in front of 5,000 people. Like I get pretty nervous.
How do you calm yourself down? You're not like one of those pukers, are you?
I'll dry heave before every game. I don't think
Oh.
I've ever puked, but I'll kind of have a moment where like, and when I feel that though, I'm like, hell yeah, that's a good spot to be. Um, I think I don't know if I calm myself down. I do the same routine every time. I watch the same video of myself. I listen to the same guided meditation. Like I take my notes in my journal before every start. Like I know I'm prepared, so that helps me. But once I pick up a ball, like that's when I know I'm gonna be okay. I don't know. It's this weird thing. I think a lot of that fear or that like nervousness is just the unknown, and then once you're out there on the mound, it's like, okay, I've done this before. This is my happy place. Like, this is where I work. But it's that like leading up to it where it's the fear of the unknown a little bit.
Do you journal every day?
I do, yeah. In
Nice.
season, I journal every day.
Not off season. You
Help me.
take the journaling off?
I'm in an off stage right now, but I still set like my intentions for every day once I
Oh.
start my workouts. And then at the end of the day, I review like what I thought went well, what I want to get better at. And like in the off season, it's going to look different. So like in season, I'll do like a start, stop, continue at the end of my day. Like, what do I want to start doing? What do I want to stop doing? What do I want to continue doing? So like in season, it might be like, I want to start throwing my curveball for a strike. I want to stop throwing uncompetitive fastballs ahead in the count, and I want to continue stacking good days. In the off season, it might be like, I want to start drinking more water. I want to stop scrolling on my phone before bed, and I want to continue my good workouts. Or like it changes, but
Mm,
I think it's still important to go through it.
it's good. I like that discipline. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Let's talk a little
helps me
bit more
stay on
about
track.
your pitching staff there in Chicago. Let's start with something that I thought was kind of emotional, and that was Kyle Hendricks leaving the mound probably for the last time as a Cub. And that was an up and down season for him. He handled it beautifully. Didn't
Yeah,
surprise anybody, but he is the last link to that city from the team that broke a 108-year curse. I was like, and I'm a Cleveland guy, so it's not like I love the Cubs or anything, and what they did to my little heart. But man, I even watching this video, I'm getting the kind of like the goosies.
yeah, dude. I mean, like when you're a kid, what else could you dream of or ask for? Like he's won a World Series, to have a city where you're that connected to and that loved, like really cool. And I think, we recognized him after the game in the locker room too, and just to hear him talk and how appreciative he is of his time in Chicago, like it gives me chill. I teared up when he was talking after the game, just because I know how hard of a worker, how great of a dude. No one deserves it more than Kyle. Um, yeah, dude, like you just don't see many guys play 10 years for the same team and be, that good of a player with a World Series. Like there's not many guys that do that anymore. 10 years with the same team.
Well, how about the fact that guy barely throws 90?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, playing with him, two things really jumped out at me. He's way more personable than I thought from across the way. Like you watch him and he's so stoic. He doesn't smile, he doesn't pound his glove, he doesn't yell. So I just always thought he was like a mute. And then I get to know him and I'm like, dude, he's actually super funny and he's super outgoing. That caught me off guard. One of my favorite teammates ever. And then just like the discipline and the consistency of the work, what you'd expect out of a guy with his demeanor, but like you can count on, his even his stuff in the locker looking the same way every day. He's doing the same arm care routine every day. He lifts, at the same time on the same day, in his routine. So just super disciplined. So it's no accident that he's had the success he's had. And I would imagine like because he, never threw 95 or whatever, like I would imagine he's kind of had that chip on his shoulder of like, I have to prepare better than everyone, and he does.
Attention, attention, attention. Baseball playoffs are coming down to the final stretch. Get in on the playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook. From same game parlays to live betting to odds boosts and so much more. DraftKings has you covered until a champ is crowned. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets when you use promo code ROSE. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime homers on DraftKings. So download DraftKings Sportsbook app now, and new customers use promo code ROSE and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ROSE only at the DraftKings Sportsbook.
What did he say to you in the locker room that made you tear up?
I mean, I got the goosebumps just from the fact that like I put myself in his shoes a little bit and I get emotional just thinking of like, dude, again, 10 years, same city, like what he means to the organization. Um, and cool for Kyle because Kyle doesn't like cameras on him. He doesn't want attention. But I thought it was really cool that like I think he realized how special it was and I felt like he took it all in, and that's a guy who again would probably prefer to like put his head down and just like not be recognized, but he deserved it and he soaked it all in and just talked about what the Cubs logo means to him and what the city of Chicago means to him and how special it is to win there and that sort of thing.
It's nice. Justin Steele has had a couple of great years there. He's been awesome. I think the lasting visual memory of 2024 for him is going nuts. Y'all had a tough defensive inning one time, and he went berserk. And I never, I dig that. Like, I'm okay with it. People are like, oh, he yelled at his teammates. I'm like, it's competition. Fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anyone takes it personally when you're out there. Like, you're in the heat of the moment. Hitters blow up, they throw their helmets and hit their bats sometimes. Like, sometimes a pitcher needs to get it off their chest too. Steely's sick. I love watching him pitch because, again, he's not a dude who throws 95, 97, and he is scared of nobody. Like, he's going to throw you fastballs. He's going to throw you sliders. He's coming right at you. He's going to throw a ton of strikes, and it doesn't matter who you are. Like, you're getting the same pitch package. He's going to throw heaters in on righties and banger sliders. Like, I think that's sick. There's something cool about, like, I'm coming right at you, and you know what I'm going to throw, and I'm still gonna beat you today. So he's like a true just bulldog.
But when a guy snaps like that, and you usually don't see pitchers do it that often, and you're in your rotation, you're close with him, do you go to the other end of the dugout? Do you try and say something funny? Do you stay out of the way? What is it?
You know what's funny is I think I was inside doing arm care that inning, and I remember watching the inning, and I could tell he was getting frustrated. And like you said, like being on the rotation with him, being close with him, I kind of could feel it coming. And I remember people came in and they're like, "Dude, Steele just blew up out there or something." And I'm like, I kind of figured it was coming. He had a weird stretch of like just some weird hits and some lucky hits, and I felt like things maybe weren't going his way for a couple starts there. So that honestly just didn't surprise me. Yeah, normally I'll like try to just, if I'm out there, just keep looking at the game, keep looking at the field. But when someone like really slams something, it'll make me kind of like jump. But I try to just not even acknowledge it, let people do what they need to do.
Who's the best snapper you've ever been around?
Sean Rodriguez back in the day. He was good. He was good. Great teammate. Like, it all came from a place of like competing and love, and he loved the game and wanted to get after it. But yeah, he could really get after it. That team when I was a rookie, like those dudes could snap.
Yeah, no cooler was safe around him.
Yeah, he could get after it. Josh Bell could go after it a little bit in a tunnel.
Josh Bell?
That's a big dude, and he's a sweetheart, but he could get after it. Trying to think who else. But yeah, those teams back then, the early Pirates teams, they could blow up a little bit.
All right, so you guys put together, and we only got a couple more. I really appreciate your time. This has been awesome. It didn't go as planned. I mean, especially with the way you guys pitched. I thought you guys were going to be really in this thing, and nobody ever got close to Milwaukee. So this is Craig Counsell's first year after signing the big deal to leave his hometown Brewers for the hated Chicago Cubs. He did address that fact late in the season. I want you to give a listen to this and then react.
I mean, I think the message sent really is that, look, there's a big gap. I mean, they're ahead of us by a lot. And it's a talented team on and off the field. It's a talented team. But there's a big gap, and we got room to make up. There's no question about it.
Now, he's talking about the Brewers, and he says there's a sizable gap. Did it piss you off when you heard that?
No, not at all. I mean, they beat us by 11 games this year. With our team, and it's interesting because I know our guys said it all year. It's like when you look around at our group, we've got a really good group and a really good team. We just didn't win as many games as the Brewers, and we need to find a way, to win this division. So yeah, I mean, I think from Counts' standpoint, it's good to say, it's healthy to say, and I think that's a message to us players of that's our expectation. Our expectation is to win the division. It's not to come in second. It's not to compete for a wild card. We need to be better. And that could be a message to literally everyone in the entire organization. We all need to be better together collectively. We need to win more games. And I think that's healthy to say out loud. Yeah, obviously we all know we want to win the division, but it's we need to acknowledge we all need to be better and close that gap.
Would it bother you if Juan Soto came over to the north side of Chicago?
That would not bother me at all. That dude rakes.
Thought so.
That would not bother me.
I want to ask you one other question about the Mets. They are having a blast. Like Nick Castellanos even said it after the Phillies were eliminated, that Iglesias has kind of changed the dynamic of that team with the whole OMG rallying cry. Would that have worked if he had played for the Yankees?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if they'd be blaring it through the speakers of Yankee Stadium over Sinatra, but like it is interesting in New York. Like with the Yankees, they care about winning. And if a player can help you win, they want them to be themselves. Like I think you've seen it with Jazz a little bit. Like people think, oh, you go to the Yankees, you got to trim your beard, cut your hair, and you can't be yourself. But it's like they want people to be the best version of themselves. So I do think some of that would have worked. Like, because at the end of the day, all they care about is winning together. I don't know if they would have had like a post game concert on the field or not, but like I think it would have worked in the sense like they would accept him for who he is and all that. The Mets have been a freaking blast to watch. You look at a guy like I played with a couple years ago, Luis Severino, like so happy to see him out there for 180 innings of unbelievable baseball. Sean Manaea, I freaking love when the starters come out of the game, how they huddle up and jump up and down together. Like, I don't know who started all that, but I think it's incredible. And there's probably some analytics people that might hear this and think like, oh, that stuff doesn't matter. All that matters is what you do on the field. But it's like there is value in good energy and good vibes and enjoying showing up at the park and winning together and playing together. Like, I really believe in that stuff. Yeah, good vibes and good energy aren't going to win you a World Series, but like it surely helps.
That's awesome. I love that perspective. Last thing, what's the most interesting thing you're going to do this offseason?
I'm going to Italy with my wife for a delayed honeymoon. So we're doing like 13 days over in Italy. I'm pretty excited about that. I've never been.
That's awesome. When did you guys get married?
Last January. So it was at the end of January and it was time to like start throwing bullpens and lock in. So we're doing the honeymoon here coming up.
Well, congratulations. January what?
Thank you. January 19th.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so I'd say Italy. And besides that, interesting thing. Honestly, I'm really excited this offseason to have like a little bit more of a normal offseason. Bought a house in Arizona, got a great workout set up. Like I'm looking forward to playing catch with someone outside, not having to throw into a net and being in a cold weather climate. So I'm excited to just have like a boring offseason, to be honest.
Do you have a throw partner?
I've got a few people on speed dial down here in AZ that are ready.
Well, Brault's got a house there, so he could serenade you and throw with you.
Yeah, I think it might have been last year I met up with Brault at a park and played catch with him. Or maybe it was the year before, but I have thrown with him here.
He's probably the same guy who he probably takes his shoes and socks off in a park and goes play catch, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Arizona is like I could look for a throwing partner and in 30 minutes be at a park throwing with someone. Even if it's a friend of a friend. Like I've played catch with guys I've never met before where it's just like you text someone and they're like, "Oh, no, I can't today, but I know this guy's looking for someone." And then boom.
You know what? You could make somebody's day by putting it out on social media. Anybody want to throw? Would you ever think of that? Would you ever just throw it out?
I've actually thought of that before when I was in New York for an off season. I've thought about being like, hey, will anyone meet me at Pier 42 or whatever and play catch? But I ended up having a partner. I've definitely thought about it. I've even thought about it for when I'm in Italy. Like I know Italy's got like some sort of professional baseball league and stuff. And like maybe I'm bringing like one of those throwing socks so I can get something done. But like it'd be cool to also play actual catch.
Well, I could ask my buddy Vinny Pasquantino, who played for Team Italia in the most recent World Baseball Classic. He's, he might be well connected over there. I'm happy to set you up.
So. Yeah, I'd love that.
Well, this was a blast, man. This hour flew by. I really appreciate your time. I know it's the off season, but still, I hate taking up so much of.
I could talk baseball all day.
Well, see, this is kind of the thing we do around here.
Yeah, fun. I love it.
Yeah. So this was a blast. Enjoy Italy. Drink lots of vino over there.
I definitely will.
Yeah, live it up. This was great. We want to thank both of our producers on this one, our one and only Dan Rourke and also Robbie Scirocco. For Jameson Taillon of your Chicago Cubs, I am Chris Rose. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Rose Rotation, a production of John Boy Media.